Hello all, and welcome to the Smokey scale. For the 16th episode, I will be reviewing Who Killed Sergeant Greasemixer, the latest album by Greasemixer in October 2022. This album is more interesting to me just from the concept alone, because Grease wanted this album to sound more like a Pink Eye album mimicking his style all throughout, as well with it having some past collaborators on it such as Jacob Pringle. It may be a Renaissance album like Roadblock Volume 1 was, with a lot of great music. But despite what he may have said, it's not only a rap album like Pink Season was. In fact, it includes a lot of variation with rock songs and songs that might not be able to be considered either rock or rap. Anyways, let's get right into the review.
I made the choice to fucking ditch you. I'm sick of biting in the deck. It's a trick, makes me think how much I can let slip, but I'm never gonna.
Track 1, Ants in My Cock, is a great song with hard production that cuts deep into the style that Pink Season follows straight away from the get-go. While it can be a bit loud at times, especially at the chorus, I think the song benefits from it because it is fitting enough with the lyrics. Track 1 gets an 8 out of 10. Track 2, diss track on the guy who left a mean comment on YouTube, was immediately downplayed by the fact that it's pretty much just yelling at the mic for a few minutes instead of being something like the previous track. I do give it props for being different from anything else on this record, but as it stands, it really isn't something that I'd go replay. Track 2 gets a 5 out of 10. Track 3, Not Allowed to Smile, pissed me off just for the fact that everything but the chorus sounded good, and it's the first time in this album where the vocals take a hit. I understand that Greasemixer does not have the capability to hit that type of vocal range at the moment, but acknowledging that and taking it into account, the song would be better without the slow and high-pitched vocals. Everything else sounds really good though, and hits the Pink Season style hard, so the track at least gets a 5 out of 10. Track 4 is an interlude and I don't really have an opinion on this, so I won't be giving it a score. What I will say is that it is pretty funny. Track 5, God Save the Queen, is one I'm putting here for mostly having a funny ending, with it bringing the chorus from True Love, which is a song created by Ye, using an unused XXXTentacion vocal clip that his label gave to him to work with. At least at first listen, I found it pretty amusing and it served as a shock for me when it came on during my first listen. God Save the Queen gets its 7 out of 10. Track 6, The Rise and Fall of the Ottoman Empire, is another interlude, but I do actually have an opinion on it. Ottomans deserve better in general, being a niche instrument and all, but it doesn't matter. These white musical instruments can be put to good use, and this interlude is proof of that. Track 6 gets a 10 out of 10. Track 7, Your Mom, is a very relatable song, at least to me, and is very personal. But of course, that doesn't mean it's free of any criticism. This is the equivalent of recording yourself saying sucking on your boobs, going into Audacity, and putting the pitch up by like 50%. Sometimes it can sound good, but here it doesn't really fit. The song is decent besides that though, and I'm willing to give it a 6 out of 10. Track 8, Little People, was a song that was teased in one of Grease's videos and did have some nice production on it that interested me at first. Being able to listen to it fully, it's definitely one of the better decent rap songs Grease has produced despite the very questionable lyrics. I think the addition of Young Butt Piss's feature is also one that should be taken into account, because it does add to the variation and sound of the song a lot, and it gives the song more of a purpose as satire. Little People gets a 7 out of 10. Track 9, Land of Confusion. Starting off with a banger, this is a cover of Land of Confusion by Genesis. Now, while I do think the track is good mostly because it's just a cover, I do like the production having a sort of distorted vocal range, and I think it does fit the album quite well because in many ways, it could be a confusing track to come up for people listening who may or may not be well ranged with his past works. Land of Confusion gets a 10 out of 10. Right after is track 10, another banger, which is Abandoned featuring Haley Zimmerly. who from what I've researched seems to be a metal guitarist who has posted on TikTok in the past, and is also in the Greasepit server. I do like the vocals on this track a lot, alongside the metal rock production, which remains very consistent throughout the whole track. The zombies from Call of Duty do add some sort of substance that makes the purpose of the song more obvious, and I do hope we get to hear more of this type of stuff in New Liberty, or whatever else project he's working on. Abandoned gets a 10 out of 10. Track 11, Suicidal Optimism. Could have been good, but it yet again suffers from poor vocal syndrome. I could imagine this song being a damn banger if he was a professional, but as for now, it kind of sucks. It's still decent, again, but there is potential for more, especially if he ever decides to revisit certain songs off this album in the future. Suicidal Optimism gets a 6 out of 10. Track 12, Last of the Juggalos, featuring The Loneliest Dump, is a really good track, and I can't overstate it enough. Similar to past tracks such as 24 on Salvation, which tells a long story throughout a song. This tells a story of the last Juggalos, alongside a sort of intimidating but funky production that plays pretty much throughout the whole track until the end, where it gets calmer and you have some acoustic toning come into play. While it is sort of repetitive, it still remains as one of my favorites. Last of the Juggalos gets a 9 out of 10. Track 13 is another interlude that I don't really have an opinion on once again, besides it being funny. No rating. Track 14 is Marshall's Balls. Includes a feature from Tyler Hartman, who I know of due to my past experience. But for the sake of keeping it short, I'll keep it for later. Anyways, my opinion of this song is basically like my opinion on Your Mom or Little People. It could definitely pass as a great meme or rap production. However, it's not something I'd go and replay in the future. Overall, this song is decent at best, and I don't really see in what way it could be better unless a banger heavy metal remix is made of it in the future. Track 14 gets a 6 out of 10. Track 15, Dr. Q, is an extremely relatable track because Dr. Q is simply just a bum, living off of the landlord's hard work and not paying rent on time. Besides that, it is a really great track with great production that I wish would have been somewhat replicated within certain songs in the first half of this record. Dr. Q gets an 8 out of 10. I will also add that it's sort of disappointing that we didn't get a feature from him. Track 16, Tassie, is a nice difference from the rest of the music on this record, with a different kind of vocal style where Grease is speaking in a European accent, and this song essentially acts as another story track similarly to The Last Juggalo, which is held down slightly by the fact that The Loneliest Dump is not on this track. Tassie gets an easy 8 out of 10. Track 17, Hard Train Shit Part 2 featuring A.M. Wolf and Jacob Pringle, was really surprising to me at first listen because it sounds deeper and completely different from the original track on Roadblock. But after listening to it once again, I do really like how it sounds and how it varies between vocals and production and between A.M. Wolf and Greasemixer. Genuinely, this is probably the best track on the album and is definitely maybe his best song ever. Hard Train Shit Part 2 gets a 10 out of 10. Track 18, Smear, featuring The Cat Never Left, which was basically the only released single of the album, excluding the Little People sample released in one of his videos. It's one with simple production, but with a really good variation in between vocals, with The Cat Never Left singing the chorus of the track. With it being the ending track of the album, technically, it does tell a good summary of the story with Greasemixer and the multiverse. Smear gets an 8 out of 10. Track 19 is the closure track, and I'm not going to give it a rating. My opinion on it is that it's a cool ending track to the multiversal shit Grease has been doing recently, and with more context coming from his recent videos, including the Halloween special, it does make it satisfying and more consistent, which I've been longing for from his past albums. Let's get to the verdict of this album and talk about it some more.
Loving is easy, but saying goodbye is hard. I know you're looking down on me from the stars. Your light shines brightest.
So what's the verdict of this record? While I do think it's his most approachable album ever, and I did enjoy most of the songs to a certain degree, I still have issues with certain vocals in songs such as Not Allowed to Smile, where he seems to struggle to get a nice quiet and slow vocal range in the chorus and reminds me of the vocal problems in his past albums such as Salvation. There are certain parts in other songs where he tries to do something similar to that quiet vocal range and it does work. So I'm hoping that when his next work comes out, that these problems will mostly be out of the way. Production on instrumentals never seemed to be a problem, however. And I can say that this album was never once brought down by that, and it's by far his best production work ever. Scoring this album is hard, because while it is better than pretty much everything he's released, by far, there are still consistent issues I have with the album that do bring it down somewhat. So being fair with what I think of it, and going based on what I gave the songs for each rating, the official Smokey scale rating of Who Killed Sergeant Greasemixer is 90%. While it would have originally been 80, I'm giving it an extra 10 due to the amazing production throughout the entire album, and I hope that this type of quality is continued throughout his next albums. I believe his next album will be something as good as this, but better. Here's to New Liberty, folks, or maybe something else. I've heard rambles. Who knows? I just know it's gonna be great no matter what. What did you think of the album? Tell me your thoughts below. Remember to keep it rowdy, and that's about it. See ya.